Imagine an arrogant designer, used to shining alone, watching his empire collapse after losing the sketches for his most important collection. At the height of his despair, he finds talent where he least expects it. A humble immigrant, invisible to everyone, but who has an extraordinary gift. But what if the biggest challenge isn't her talent, but rather his secrets? A jealous bride, a devastating betrayal, and an unexpected passion intersect in a story that redefines what it means to overcome barriers. Stay until the end, because the fate of these two will defy your expectations and prove that true glamour is not in the clothes, but in the courage to start over. Don't blink. Every second of this journey is surprising. Lorenzo Castellani, with his impeccable suit and straight hair, looked at the table in his studio in disbelief. The papers, which once contained sketches of his most important collection, were now empty. He pressed his cell phone to his ear as he screamed, "How did this happen? How did you not notice?" His voice echoed through the walls decorated with award paintings. "I want answers, and I want them now." On the other end of the line, his assistant was trying, unsuccessfully, to calm him down. "Lorenzo, we are investigating. It could be a filing error or—" "I don't want to hear excuses," he interrupted. "This is sabotage. Someone inside the company is against me." He hung up abruptly, throwing the cell phone on the table. He ran his hands over his face and looked around. Every piece, every detail of the space reminded him of his reputation, built with years of work and perfectionism. But now, with the parade approaching, he had nothing. Nothing. Unacceptable, he muttered, taking a piece of paper and trying to scribble something. However, his mind felt like a desert. The inspiration that had always accompanied him had abandoned him at the most critical moment. As he sank into the chair, the studio door opened slightly. Camilla Reyes, in her simple cleaning lady's uniform, entered with a bucket and a broom. Lorenzo looked up, irritated. "What are you doing here? Don't you realize I'm busy?" Camilla stopped immediately, holding the broom as if it were a weapon. Her eyes met his, and she responded calmly. "Sorry, Mr. Castellani. I didn't know it was still here. I can come back later." "No, he's already in. Finish it quickly and leave," he said, pointing to the far corner of the room. Camilla waved, started cleaning, but couldn't help but notice the crumpled papers on the floor. One of them, partially drawn, caught his attention. "Your drawings are beautiful," he commented in a low but sincere voice. Lorenzo spun around in his chair, clearly offended. "I didn't ask for your opinion. I wasn't giving one. I just thought, sometimes changing the environment helps." She pointed to the closed curtains. Natural light, some fresh air, maybe even a coffee. "Coffee? Curtains?" He laughed dismissively. "And what else? A bouquet of flowers?" Camilla smiled slightly. "Sunflowers. They always look at the sun. Maybe it will help to remember where to find the light." Lorenzo was silent, surprised by the unexpected answer, but instead of acknowledging the advice, he muttered, "Just finish and get out of here." Camilla finished the work in silence and left. But his words remained, hanging in the air like a stubborn echo. Lorenzo looked at the curtains and, without thinking much, opened them. The moonlight illuminated the room, bringing a calm he hadn't realized he needed. He returned to his chair and tried to draw again. Still no success. Frustration was increasing, but this time along with it a little curiosity. Who was that woman, and why did his simple words seem so profound? The following night, as Lorenzo walked through the company's corridors, his gaze caught something unexpected. Camilla, now out of her cleaning lady's uniform, wore a dress that seemed custom-made. The lines of the simple fabric were impeccable, and the design highlighted a raw but undeniable creativity. He stopped abruptly. "Where did you get that dress?" he asked, his voice full of distrust. Camilla turned around, surprised by the approach. Her eyes met his, but she maintained her composure. "I did it myself," he replied calmly. Lorenzo stepped forward, examining the dress with trained eyes. He ran his fingers along the hem and noted the simplicity of the stitching, but something about the design intrigued him deeply. "He did?" he repeated, incredulously. "With what materials?" "The ones I could afford," Camilla replied with a shy smile. "It's not the best fabric, but it served to test an idea." "Test an idea?" He raised his eyebrows, clearly skeptical. "You're a cleaner, not a designer. How did you learn to do something like that?" Camilla sighed, as if that question had been asked many times before. "My mother was a seamstress in Medellin. I grew up watching her transform simple fabrics into something special. When she left, the sewing machine was the only legacy she left me. I've been practicing ever since." Lorenzo crossed his arms, evaluating his words. He wanted to find a flaw, something that justified his skepticism, but all he saw was authenticity. Finally, he took a step back and asked, "Do you have other designs?" Camilla hesitated. I didn't expect him to show interest. "I have some drawings, nothing professional, but I like to create in my spare time." "I want to see them," he said firmly. "Bring everything tomorrow morning." She frowned in surprise. "Why? You don't believe me." "I don't know what to believe, but something about that dress." Lorenzo stopped, shaking his head. "Just do as I asked." That night, Camilla returned home with her heart racing. He gathered his sketchbooks, some with pages already yellowed with age. For her, those drafts were stored dreams, never meant to be shared. When he arrived at the company the next day, Lorenzo was waiting in the office. He leafed through the drawings with a neutral expression, but there was a gleam in his eyes that she couldn't interpret. "These drawings," he began, stopping to choose one of the sketches. "They are unique, different. I want to make a proposal." "Proposal?" Camilla asked, suspicious. "I want you to help me create a new collection. You have 2 weeks. If it fails, we'll never talk about it again." Camilla stared at him, her emotions oscillating between fear and excitement. "What if I accept? What do I gain from this?" Lorenzo smiled for the first time, a smile that wasn't one of arrogance but one of admiration. "The chance to prove that you are more than you think." The first days of the partnership between Lorenzo and Camilla were tense. In the improvised studio inside Lorenzo's mansion, the sound of sewing machines and the rustling of sketch sheets dominated the environment. Lorenzo watched Camilla as she adjusted a fabric on the mannequin, his concentration evident in each movement. "This line won't work with the cut you proposed," he commented, his voice full of impatience. "It's very basic." Camilla stopped and turned to him, her eyes shining with an unexpected firmness. "It's not basic, it's strategic. We need a piece that opens the collection with impact, but without revealing everything at once. It's like telling a story. You told me you understand this, right?" Lorenzo narrowed his eyes, clearly challenged by the answer. He crossed his arms, but instead of responding, he shook his head. "Prove to me that you are right." Camilla went back to work, adjusting every detail with precision. When she was finally finished, she pulled back the fabric to reveal a flowing dress in shades of blue and gold. Lorenzo stepped forward, assessing the piece. His fingers touched the fabric, and a small smile curved his lips. "It's not bad," he admitted. "But something is still missing." "I agree," Camilla replied, taking a satin ribbon and adding a detail to the neckline. "Now, yes." Lorenzo was silent for a moment, amazed at her ability to improve the design without apparent effort. He nodded. "It's ready. Let's go to the next one." As the days passed, the dynamic between the two began to change. Lorenzo, previously accustomed to being the sole creative authority, found in Camilla a collaborator who challenged and inspired him. On the other hand, Camilla, who had never had a real opportunity, felt her confidence grow with each completed piece. During a break, while they were drinking coffee on the balcony, Lorenzo looked at Camilla and asked, "Have you always wanted to do this?" She smiled, looking at the horizon. "As long as I can remember, but I never thought I would have the chance." Lorenzo leaned forward, his eyes full of curiosity. "You're different, you know that. Most people I know would do anything for recognition. You just want to create." Camilla shrugged, her voice soft. "Creating is the only thing that has always made sense to me." Lorenzo was silent, but something about the simplicity of his answer moved him in a way he hadn't expected. He realized that, for the first time in years, he felt a genuine connection with someone. The morning started with tension in the air. Camilla was in the studio, organizing fabrics and finishing one of the most complex dresses in the collection. Lorenzo hurried in, with his cell phone in hand and a closed expression. "Bianca is coming here," he announced, throwing the phone on the table. "She suspects something." Camilla stopped what she was doing, feeling a chill down her spine. "Bianca? Your fiancé?" he asked, trying to remain calm. "Exactly. She thinks I'm hiding something, and honestly, she's not wrong." Lorenzo sighed, rubbing his face. "If she sees you here, it will be a problem. I need you to stay out of sight." Camilla pursed her lips, feeling a pang of discomfort. "I'm not a secret, Lorenzo. I'm helping you." He moved closer, his voice softer. "I know that, but Bianca wouldn't understand. She doesn't see beyond herself." Before Camilla could respond, the mansion's main door opened with force. Bianca Ricci entered, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "Lorenzo!" she called, her voice firm. "Where are you?" Lorenzo took a step towards the studio door and whispered to Camilla, "Stay here, don't leave." He left to find Bianca in the living room. She was impeccably dressed, as always, but there was a contained fury in her eyes. "What's going on here?" Bianca asked, crossing her arms. "You've been so distant, disappearing all day. I thought we were planning the wedding." "Bianca, I already told you. I'm dealing with an urgent issue at work." Lorenzo replied, trying to maintain his composure. "Problem at work?" She looked around, as if searching for something. "I don't believe. There's someone here, isn't there?" Lorenzo tried to change the subject, but Bianca advanced towards the studio. He intercepted her, placing himself between her and the door. "Bianca, there's nothing here. I'm just trying to resolve a critical situation with my collection. Please don't complicate things." But Bianca wasn't convinced. Her determination led her to confront Lorenzo directly. "Do you think I'm blind? Something is happening, and I'm going to find out what it is," she said with her eyes narrowed. "I'm not an idiot, Lorenzo." Lorenzo hesitated, but before he could say anything, Bianca dropped a bombshell. "Maybe it's time for me to say something too. I was the one who gave his sketches to Maison de la Croix." His voice carried a mix of anger and contempt. "You were so obsessed with your work that you completely ignored me. So yes, I did it to get to you." The impact of the revelation made Lorenzo take a step back. He put his hand to his head, trying to process what he had just heard. "Did you steal my work?" he asked, his voice low but full of emotion. "For what, Bianca? For revenge?" "Because I'm tired of being ignored," she screamed. "All that matters to you is your career, never both of us." Lorenzo took a deep breath, trying to control his anger. "You crossed the line, Bianca. We are finished." Bianca laughed, a bitter sound. "Finished? Lorenzo, you never really had me. Good luck with your collection, because that's all you have now." She walked away quickly, leaving Lorenzo alone in the hallway. He returned to the studio, where he found Camilla looking out the window, clearly tense. "I heard everything," she said, turning to him. Lorenzo sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't want it to be like this, but now it's clear what I need to do." He approached her, taking her hands. "Camilla, you are the only person I trust. Let's finish this collection together, and I'll make sure everyone knows that you're the brilliant mind behind it." Camilla looked at him, hesitantly, but the sincerity in her eyes was undeniable. "I'm with you, Lorenzo, until the end." The night of the parade arrived with palpable tension in the air. The room was full of journalists, fashion critics, and celebrities. Lorenzo Castellani watched the preparations from behind the scenes with a mix of pride and nervousness. Beside him, Camilla was adjusting the latest dress on a model, her eyes attentive to every detail. "Are you ready?" Lorenzo asked, placing his hand on her shoulder. "More than ever," Camilla replied, with a shy smile. The stage lights went out, and catchy music started to play. Lorenzo took a deep breath as the first models walked onto the catwalk, showing off pieces from the new collection. The audience reacted enthusiastically, each applause echoing confirmation that it had all been worth it. Camilla watched between the curtains, her heart racing. Lorenzo approached and whispered, "This applause is for you, Camilla. Don't hide." She shook her head. "It's your name that's in the collection. I was just part of the process." Lorenzo held her hand, firmly but gently. "No, you are the entire process, and they need to know that." When the last model returned backstage, Lorenzo took the stage to a standing ovation. He raised his hands, asking for silence, and the audience stood at attention. "Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight," he began, his voice strong and clear. "This collection is much more than a fashion work. It is a story of resilience, creativity, and partnership." He paused, searching for Camilla between the curtains. His eyes met hers, and he held out his hand. "But I didn't do it alone. In fact, this entire collection is the result of the vision and talent of someone very special. Please welcome the true creator of this work, Camilla Reyes." Camilla hesitated, but Lorenzo's encouraging look convinced her. She walked onto the stage, greeted by deafening applause. Tears streamed down her face as she stood next to Lorenzo. "Thank you," she began, her voice shaking. "I never imagined I would be here, in front of all of you. All of this was only possible because someone believed in my dream." Lorenzo took the microphone again, his voice now softer. "And now I need to make another confession." He turned to Camilla, holding her hands. "You changed my life, Camilla. And not just because of your talent, but because of the incredible person you are. So, I want to ask you something in front of everyone here." He knelt down, taking a small box out of his pocket. The audience held its breath. "Camilla Reyes, do you agree to spend the rest of your life with me?" Camilla covered her mouth with her hands, surprised. The tears came harder as she nodded. "Yes, Lorenzo, I accept." The audience burst into applause and whistles as Lorenzo hugged her. Backstage, the team cried and hugged each other, celebrating the moment. Later that same evening, the two walked through the empty parade hall. Lorenzo looked at Camilla, now wearing one of the dresses from the collection, and smiled. "I think we're just getting started." "I agree," she replied, "and I can't wait to see where it takes us." Together, they walked into the future, certain that they had found something much greater than success, each other.